Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, granitegrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from granitegrok.com.
Grok Talk.
Never give up. Never surrender.
All right, this is Grok Talk. Welcome back. It is Saturday, January
You reset my camera.
17th. Quiet. 2015. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're coming to you live from Concord, New Hampshire. Thank you to CNHT, the bloggers at granitegrok.com, and all our wonderful guests, people who make the trip up here in the freezing cold to be on our program or call us from early in the morning in time zones far to our west. Which Dr. Fodeman did. We appreciate that a great deal, and we enjoy your company very much, and we always want to have you back on. Are you going to gripe about the camera
Do not
again?
touch my eye of Sauron.
All right, I'm turning you off again. Anyway, we are here. Thanks again to Dr. Jason Fodeman for being on the program. Next segment, we'll have Ken Eyring on to talk about Wyndham School Board and some fun things going on over there. But right now, we have an opportunity to do something we haven't done in a while, which is talk to the Master of Ceremonies here at CNHT, Chairman Ed Nail, who has come to us for what has to be an impressive voter fraud update because we haven't had one in a while. Hey, Ed.
Hi guys. Pleasure to be here again under the eye of Sauron. We've been working on voter fraud since 2000. Got quite an array of catches of different types of voter fraud. And we do this because the state of New Hampshire doesn't prosecute or even investigate voter fraud, so it's up to individuals to do it. And we got quite a little team going on right now. One of the hottest things we have at the moment is the city of Dover.
Okay.
Dover, New Hampshire has an individual in it, one of my superheroes, Dave Scott. And Dave was in the legislature a couple of years ago and got voted out. I think he lost by 30 votes. And he's been concerned about voter fraud ever since. So this time, he's done some voter fraud investigations before and turned it over to the state. Nothing was done. So this time, after the 2014 election, he mailed everyone a letter saying thank you for voting. And as you would imagine, a lot of them came back. So when they came back as undeliverable, no such address, no such street, I think there's 4 different categories the post office numbers them with. 1 through 4. And he sent out a second letter. So when the second letter comes back, unable to forward, no such number, no such street, attempted not known, moved, left no address, insufficient address, he sent the second one, and then he would send me a batch of 50 names at a time. So we'll take the first name. This is what we're doing. This is how you catch voter fraud in New Hampshire. We'll take the very first name, and we'll just call him Robert Baker for grins, okay? So I got Robert Baker here, and Robert Baker's not an easy name to catch. So I depend on my...
Are there a lot of Robert Bakers in the world?
There are a lot of Robert Bakers. So I usually try and pick somebody like, I won't use their name, but,
Larry's a big new.
Let's pick Zoe Malios. Okay, your name is Zoe Malios. How many of them can there be?
Not as many.
If everyone had a name like that, we would be fine. But we have these individuals, and we'll make up a name. We'll call him Robert Baker. So I send Robert Baker's name off to my guy that does background searches, and he comes up with a Robert Baker. And when you look at Robert Baker's information, it says, Robert Baker voted in Dover from an address the post office does not recognize. Okay? So we have that as a fact. Mm-hmm. He's received 2 letters. The letters both come back. So we have 2 pieces of evidence that he may not be there, or may be somebody else, or there's something wrong with his address, or that he's given false information to the town when he votes. Okay? So we take that name, and we punch it into our little... let's say, background search web address, and it comes back as, he has a phone number, 603, blah, 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 2, and now we got a middle name. And he has another phone number.
And if we were going to just make up a name, his middle name might be Robert D. Baker.
D,
right?
J, could be anything. So, before you ask a question, we find another number with a Florida, prefix. So, okay, Florida. So we look it up, and it has an address. Something looks like 1277.
12778
Something like
Northwest
that. Something from
83rd
just the top
Court.
of my
That
head.
might be
just making something up.
We might just be making that up.
And
yeah.
what does it say there? It says when you give the same birth date of the Robert Baker that votes in New Hampshire and the Robert Baker that has an address in Florida, and you punch that into Florida's database, you come up with
Parkland.
he's been an active voter in Florida since 2009.
33076.
Yeah, now, two questions here. You
Yep.
you handed us this piece of paper. Now,
This is
a lot
top
of
secret.
it is in Spanish. If this was
That's
related
Florida.
to... Oh, you just ruined my question. I was going to say, here in New Hampshire, I would have expected to see French, but there's no county here in New Hampshire called Broward.
It's your breathing. Somebody's breathing. I think
It's
it's
me.
yours. There
It's
you go.
me.
There we go.
I
Okay,
got all
so-
excited when he asked me a question. Started heavy
Keep
breathing.
going.
Okay, so I'm not on.
So here's
Broward
what's going
County?
on. So we got a guy, we tagged him to Broward County. Now, if we match him with the guy we caught, the lawyer from Philadelphia, I can use his full name, Jared Stephen Cram. Jared Stephen Cram was registered in Pennsylvania, I think Dauphin County, since 1998. 2002, he registered in New Hampshire and ran for state office. He ran
Yes, he
for
did.
state rep here in New Hampshire in 2002. So I'm assuming he voted here. My records don't go back that far, but I know he ran for office in 2002 and lost. He's been registered in Pennsylvania and New Hampshire since at least 2002. So he has the option of voting in two different places. So that comes under, when you catch him in a federal election for president, that comes under U.S. Code 42, 1973, GG10, right? It says criminal penalties, a person, including elected official, who in any election for federal office, that was Obama, knowingly and willfully deprives, defrauds, or attempts to deprive or defraud the residents of a state, in this case would be two states, of fair and impartially conducted election process by casting of ballots that are known to be false, so lying, perjury. So that's how we caught Jared. Jared's voting back and forth as he sees fit in two states. So we took that pattern we caught Jared with, and we're using that on the 50 at a time Dover list. When we first started to catch out-of-state voters in bulk, we were using the list of volunteers for Barack Obama. So basically, you're taking a list of thugs from Chicago that came to New Hampshire and ran a campaign for him. And they have their names listed here and there as working for Obama in 2008, working for Obama in 2012. There's a method for catching them because they're political activists and they're registered in multiple states, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. And they have a history of speaking to the press, things like that. In this case, in Dover, we're just catching somebody who may on their own, like a lone wolf vote thief. A little different process. So we're using the same deal, and anybody can do this at home if they want to buy themselves a background search. It's like $22 a month for a background search site. So you take the names of, let's say, they're not suspicious, they just have voted recently as of November, 11 weeks ago. They voted here and then disappeared. We can't find them on websites. We can't find them as ever having their name in the paper, really. You can't find them through the mail, like I said before, and you can't find them at that address. Post office, you think the mailman would say, oh, that's got to be Mr. Smith. It's 4 houses off. I'm sorry. I got mail one time. We first moved to New Hampshire in 1978 for my grandmother. The only thing she had right was my name and the zip code. She had me living in Vermont, the wrong street, but the mail came to me because once it hit the 03244, the people at the post office went, oh, it's that guy, and it got to my house. So I'm assuming of the first 50 names I got here, Baker, Harris, Cloytreau, Manox, whatever, the mailman must kind of have an idea who they are if they're an established person who votes from that area, who they are. So we're just going on this for the new Dover search for the independent lone wolf vote thief. So that's what we've been up to.
But if they're a quick hit and run vote by night thief, then they won't be known to anybody in the town. So they can't be delivered 3 houses down the street from the empty lot.
That's our biggest tip-off. The mail's been refused, returned, no such street, and it's consistent around the state. The late Bob Kingsbury ran for state rep and sent everybody a letter after the election and got 220 back as undeliverable in Laconia. So that's just Laconia. It's not a college town. That's just a regular old Laconia.
And we know that some people vote absentee from addresses in New Hampshire as well. They never even been here. So,
yeah, we actually have an absentee here that's pretty suspicious. Been working on that for a couple of evenings. So that's what we're up to now in Dover. And I already have a guy who votes in Dover who has an address in Kittery, Maine. Mm-hmm. And we know that in Kittery, Maine, occasionally recently they hired a guy called a constable to go through Kittery and take the New Hampshire plates off the Maine vehicles because they register their vehicles in New Hampshire. I'm still unsuccessful to this day, but I'm still trying to get that list of people who've paid a fine for registering their car in New Hampshire and to see if they vote here. That'd be called a nice, refined list. You know, if you're ballsy enough to register your car in New Hampshire and live in Maine, you probably duck down to that phony address and vote there too. So I have a guy who has a fishing charter in Maine, and he votes in Portsmouth, and he has an address in Kittery. So I have another one I have a woman in her 50s. She lives in Barrington, votes in Dover, has a house in York, and here comes the fun part, has a daughter who's got a criminal conviction in Fulton County, Georgia, where she has a conviction for misuse of plates. So when you have something like that, what do? Well, let's see if the mom and daughter have a place in Fulton County, Georgia. And then I get a birth date from my background search guy. Then I put that into Georgia's database, and I'll get something back like this saying, oh, by the way, this person's been a registered voter in Georgia since. So that's how we track them. Just take whatever we can find that's public information and pound on that till we get something back from them. And I have, here's another. This is just a quick overview of how we do this. Here's another chump. This guy right here. This is Charles Matthews. Charlie Matthews is a voter in Moultonborough. And his mother apparently has a nice home up in Moultonborough where Charlie votes from. He's probably 40-some years old. And Charlie was up at Mom's house having a party, having a shindig. I imagine some alcohol might have been involved, and I guess his dog bit somebody at the party. So they sued him.
Oh, you told me about this. This is so good.
They sued him. Drum roll for this one.
Wait a minute.
Excellent.
Okay.
So Charlie's dog bit somebody, and the insurance company says, well, we're not going to pay because you don't live at the house. He goes, what do you mean I don't live at the house? I vote there. The New Hampshire Supreme Court says, yeah, Charlie. Sorry, Charlie. You may vote there, but you live in Massachusetts because that's where your business is, that's where your condos are, that's where you work, and that's where your established presence is. So even though you're a voter in New Hampshire, it doesn't mean you live here and you're a resident and the insurance company has to pay for your dog biting that lady at the party.
So the insurance is actually holding him to a higher standard than the Secretary of State.
And the Supreme Court says, yeah, insurance company, Vermont Mutual, you're right. So now we got to go down and stalk Charlie. So the address that Charlie used in Supreme Court case, he doesn't live there either. So I have to drive to Boston. And the people in Boston are actually, yeah, let's get him. The lady that called down there is like, I'll help you find him. So I told her about the dog bite stuff. So there's Charlie Matthews. We have him. Here's another fun thing.
They just want that tax money that's coming back up here.
Here's something. Here, let's do this real quick. This is my friend John Shepherdson. And the part in italics is the message he left on my phone.
Hey, Eddie. I remember this, too. Yeah. John Shepherdson calling, and your information about Jared Cram is false. It's been proven by the Secretary of State's office, and they've found absolutely no evidence he double-voted at any time. So get your... What's he wrote? Apollo retractions ready because you're going to need them. Bye.
Yeah, my Apollo retraction. I'm still waiting. So I've asked Mr. Shepherdson, for an Apollo retraction of his little phone threat to me. And I haven't got anything back from him. And I haven't got anything back from the Milford Cabinet. 2 weeks ago, I went down to their office.
Oh, you actually went and visited them?
Oh, yeah. Knock, knock. I'm in your office. Hello.
Hi, Ed Nail.
Ed Nail here. Apparently, Mrs. Cleveland doesn't know who I am. So I said, yeah, I'm looking for the editor. She says, I'm the editor. She said, well, really, I'm not. So now I know I'm in the right place, okay? So I said, well, I'm Ed Nail from the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, and I'm here to ask for a correction about your stories on Jared Cram, one of your favorite people over in Wilton. I said, as a registered voter in Philadelphia and in Wilton, and I turned him in to authorities down in Pennsylvania. Here is a copy, like 4 pages, with the names redacted of who I sent it to, and I've turned him over to one set of authorities in Pennsylvania, and I'm waiting to do the others, depending on how this first one goes. I said, so your paper, in 3 editions in a row, asked CNHT and me to apologize to Mr. Cram for calling him, an interstate voter. I really call him a low-life scumbag vote thief, but that didn't go into the papers. But that's what he is.
You didn't happen to have a camera with this?
No. When I go back, see, I caught him by surprise. The next time I go, I have to have a camera with me and a witness, because you never, ever, ever, unless you're a professional like me, don't try this on your own, talk to a school superintendent, department heads like Department of Safety, any of these people alone. Because they'll say what they think they heard you say.
Yep.
Or they'll say they feel threatened, and you're done from that point on. You're the guy who assaulted or called somebody something. So I very rarely do this.
The guys from Wyndham are nodding.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's been like that.
Always have a. I've said it for years. To any activist, you always have a camera.
Witness,
Two
camera.
is even better, because if somebody assaults the first camera guy, then you get the second camera to get that.
But that's you know how you have a rat cornered when the rat attacks like that. So I'm used to that. I've been doing that for over 20 years. Okay, so we have. I went to Mrs. Cleveland. I said it would be nice if you did a retraction. Because for 3 weeks in a row you asked me to retract my statements or apologize to Jared Cram, this vote thief. And I said, here is the list of complaints against him. I handed her, I think, 8 pages of stuff all redacted. The statutes, the state statutes. But I didn't hand her everything. So I'll be going back and say, if you've had a chance to review those documents, maybe you'd like some more. And then we'll go about asking for another retraction there. I'm not expecting to get one. It's a pretty liberal paper, and liberals don't like to apologize. If they did, it would be something to the effect of, it wouldn't be a real apology. It would be something to the effect of, we're sorry you might have misinterpreted what we said about asking Mr. Nail to apologize. This is interesting here. This is a list of my little book. In case anybody hasn't seen this yet, you don't want to wind up in here. This is a book. This is temporary, because this will be moved into the filing cabinet later. This is a list of 155 names. We have Lisa Marie Alberico, Leah Ann Amante, Jack Ryan Anderson, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on to the Z's.
Do they all have 3 names?
Just the
Liberals
Hoy
have
Folloy.
this.
Hoy Folloy.
Mark of distinction.
They all have 3 names, which makes them easy to find, because these are college students, and they're usually not on the net, except for, here's how I find you college students: high school sports. I just go photos, sports, and they all played field hockey, golf, swimming, and track. Most of your low-life scumbag vote thieves that we caught in the history of doing this, in 15 years of doing this, played a non-contact sport.
Non-contact.
Yep, and they excelled in high school. Someone gave them a free ride to an overseas trip at one point in time. They come back and they go to college, and when they get out of college, they do politics. That's where most of them, that's their pattern in life.
Boy, don't you have a profile all set.
Yeah, I can usually spot them across the room. Anyway, here's 155 names, and these individuals all voted in 2012 in Keene out of a condo unit the college owns.
One unit.
It's called Owl's Nest.
Did they happen to be involved in that riot at the Pumpkin Festival?
Well, we seek them out that way. Yeah. Now, Keene is an interesting little case. When I go to Durham, when I first went to Durham, I would say, "Could I have your roster or your log for arrest?" And they go, "Yeah, here it is. Give it to me." And it actually had whether they were a student or not. Back in 2000, 2004, somewhere in that area, it had all kinds of information about them on the arrest log. Well, they're stripped down now. They're just minor stuff. But I can at least get an arrest log of arrested students from Durham. Can't get it from Keene. It's like Keene police go out every Friday, Saturday night, and they don't arrest anybody that's in the college. So I imagine the college police must handle that. But it's very difficult to find a student arrested by, I don't remember the officer's name now. But anyway, that's all on the web. So like Monday, Tuesday mornings, I'll go in and look, see who got arrested over the weekend and match them up with this crowd. And then we look for them in other states to see if they're registered in another state. Because if you're registered in 2 states, I'm assuming that's a violation of my rights. Now, one of these dudes is going to get picked. It's probably going to be Jared Cram, unless we can resolve this quickly. I'm going to pick one of these and sue him personally for violating my 14th Amendment right to equal protection, because I can't vote in 2 states. Now, he did this in 2012. We think he voted here in 2008 because Jared Cram isn't listed as voting anywhere in 2008, but he was in Delaware County helping poll watchers in 2008 for Obama's first run. So if you're a member of the Democrat Party City Committee in Philly, and you're training people to work as poll watchers, and you don't vote,
that's a little weird.
Well, we think he voted Wilton, but Wilton doesn't have the records.
Well, and why doesn't Wilton have the records?
Mildew.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're gone. So I'm trying to track them down from a candidate, somebody who ran. I think I have a good source.
Doesn't that put the town clerk at risk in Wilton?
That's the way it works, man. It's just they lost them under something happened. They got water or mildew in the building, and they lost them, the originals. So there was some controversy because the list we have that was on the internet from the state, the statewide database, shows him voting in Wilton in 2008, but that's now all been erased. What couldn't be erased?
It's been erased after
we exposed him.
After you exposed him.
Yeah.
So there's no corruption either.
You got screen caps?
What's that?
Did you scrape the page?
Some
copy the page?
Yeah, I have all that.
Oh, okay.
I even have the emails between the individuals at the Secretary of State's office and Wilton asking them to erase their records.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you've seen them, right?
I have, yeah.
So,
So
this is
pretty cool,
corruption.
isn't
I posted links.
It's just not, I don't know if it's corruption.
If
It's
you
really, really weird, though.
Search
Isn't it?
Jared Cram on Granite Rock, and you will find links to Ed's story at CNHT, and all the links to the documents. There's PDFs. There's actual links to.
And when you read the documents I got, the emails from the Secretary of State's office to the Wilton office saying, please take Jared Cram off your list because he didn't vote, our internal investigation, which was triggered 4 days after we exposed him on Rich Gerard.
Right.
Boom! That's what. And their emails they sent me show there's more emails, but they didn't supply them.
So they're tracking you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. So
You
quite
are
some
a
time.
menace to their power.
Like somebody over at the Secretary of State's office has to listen to Gerard at large to see if Ed's going to be on.
I think that's
now
what
he's going to
happens.
have to listen to us too.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that makes my stories on Rich Gerard's radio program a lot more juicier. Doesn't it? Anyway, and I can also lead things. I can throw stuff out there. They may or may not know what else I know, like Jared Cram. I know Jared Cram will probably see this because I imagine he gets up every morning and goes, Jared Stephen Cram, voter fraud. I think I have him voting in a third state. So if we can get him under oath, as I told there's an investigator looking into this in Philly. I've already talked to him. And he was very intrigued by this. How did you catch him? And I said, well, we have this little deal set up. He goes, because New Hampshire and Pennsylvania aren't contiguous. I said, yeah, well, we got a tip. And part of the interesting thing about Jared is that he was a registered voter until October of this year in Wilton. His parents, till 2014. All right, so as of October 8th, 2014, Jared Cram is still a registered voter in Wilton. From his mother and father's house, they sold in 2013. That's kind of the red flag, right? So looking up Jared Stephen Cram, I got an address on him in another state.
Oh, boy.
And he has no ties to that state other than it's Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Da-dum, 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 da-dum. It's the same town that the Iowans for tax relief, my friends, are in. So we're hoping to get him under oath in Philly. But the guy down there that's doing the investigation on behalf of Pennsylvania said that was very interesting. He was chuckling when I said Iowa. So, Jared, if you're out there and you get a chance to look at this or hear this, I hope all the hair on the back of your neck is tingling. Because if we get you in 3 states, somebody's going to want you. The other thing is I have an opportunity to sue this guy personally. I went to Superior Court to sue him to have his name taken off the list, and the Secretary of State's office beat me to it. That's what those emails were about, to get him off the list. So I was going to have him removed from the list. That would be one win in Superior Court. The lady at the Hillsborough County North wouldn't take my paperwork because she said it wasn't in order. Now, I've filed paperwork there a lot of times. I've won a lot of cases in Hillsborough Superior Court. And I said, okay, fine. So I took the money I was going to spend taking Jared to court, and I bought a half-page ad in our local paper and put his picture in there. So if you see this guy around a polling place, please call Ed Nail. He's a vote thief from Pennsylvania. So I imagine he's seen that, too.
So New Hampshire, Iowa, and you've got contacts in South Carolina, too, in case he decides to boogie on over.
There's a group starting of anti-voter fraud activists in about 8 or 9 states so far. So there's some people in Virginia and North Carolina are starting it, and they asked me if I wanted to be part of it. They have Montana, Virginia, Florida. Florida's really cool because Florida, you can get their whole statewide database, I think, for $10 or $100. Ours is $3,000, and ours is no good. So Florida's, I imagine, they're real databases. So with real information. Our database would be loaded with garbage. Like when we took, we outed so many non-resident voters in Manchester that the city clerk, Matt Norman, sent letters to the most recent voters. He sent out 8,165 letters. He got 4,400 back
Ooh.
as undeliverable. Only 306 or 308 people sent a letter back saying, yeah, keep me on the list. So that shows how corrupted and phony the list was in Manchester until Matt Norman. God bless Matt Norman for doing that. So it makes Manchester a safer place to have an election. That means the Democrats will probably shift their whole operation to Nashua, where they're pretty strong. Anyway, so
I got to ask it.
Yep.
So if you mentioned the fact that, how do you get Pennsylvania because it's non-contiguous, well, that brings up the question, did he in fact arrange with buddies somewhere in between, like Connecticut or New York, to vote there on his way back and forth?
I mean, they can do anything. I mean, they're if you're working for a candidate like Jared Cram works for candidates, he was working for Obama to help him get poll watchers. When you're connected like that, like what's her name there, Caitlin
Legacki.
Caitlin Ann Legacki.
Yeah.
Caitlin Ann Legacki worked for Gene Shaheen, Kay Hagan, and Claire McCaskill.
Yeah.
And she was in D.C. working for some communications firm.
She's from Alaska.
She's
she
from
was
Alaska.
registered in South Carolina.
She was registered in Alaska
Missouri,
one time.
New Hampshire.
So professionals like that, yeah, they can say, hey, have somebody from the office go over in New Hampshire especially, say they're me. Once you're on the list in New Hampshire, no one can stop you from coming in and saying,
so what you're saying
Skip.
is the one thing that James O'Keefe won't do, which is to actually take and use the ballot. They'll come in and say, do you have Catherine Ann?
Yeah, but you can't touch the ballot.
Caitlin Ann Legacki, and they'll wave a ballot at him, and he won't take it. But these people are sending over lackeys that aren't them to deliberately
That's what I want to catch
ballots.
next. I mean, here's these college students. These college students are long gone.
Yeah.
If they vote in 2012, they're probably gone.
Yeah.
But their name remains on the checklist. If some other student goes in and votes in their place, see what I mean? I'm trying to educate these guys. If you're a college student who steals my vote, thinks it's real funny, and you're out of here a year or 2 years later, your name stays on for up to 10 years.
Yeah.
Depending on how they clean these databases. So
15 seconds.
So what happens is I want to catch another person voting in someone else's place. And we think, with Caitlin Ann Legacki, that could have happened because we know she was in Missouri on election night and voting here same day. She could have been two places at once. I'd like to catch one.
And that's not a quick flight. We've tried to plot transport back and forth.
Yeah, she'd need a spaceship Enterprise to do that.
All right, Ed, thank you so much for being on the program.
Guys,
we are going to come right back with Ken Eyring and some fun from Wyndham. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Gene Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
Jean Shaheen and her allies are making false claims about her record on veterans. The truth? Shaheen refused to meet with veterans pushing for reform. She wasn't on the committee that wrote the reform legislation and refused to co-sponsor important VA reforms in the VA Management Accountability Act until after the VA scandal broke. When our veterans needed her, Jean Shaheen was AWOL. Tell Jean Shaheen to stop distorting the truth and fix the VA.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. If you have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Talk.